This is Raul Lopez, and you're listening to How Do You Say Success in Spanglish? The path to success isn't easy. For minorities and people of color, many attempt this journey with little to no guidance. Join me as I sit down with individuals who share their stories of perseverance so that together we can learn how to say success in Spanglish. What's good, mi gente? Welcome back. This is your boy Raul. Today we got a good friend of mine, Monsurat Ottun. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
And for me, I've always known you as Monsi, so But Monsi and I go way back as well. She and I were kind of in Pawtucket for a long time, and then also in our Upward Bound program. So just to give you a little bit about her, Monsurat Ottun, leader in strategy and attorney with backgrounds in cybersecurity, mission-driven org and business development, organizational optimization, and transcending barriers to deliver innovation, which sounds fancy as fuck. So tell me a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so I'll tell you my current job, and then I'll try to break it down by career. So right now I work for the Department of Homeland Security. I am a part of the Cyber and Infrastructure Security Agency. I'm a cybersecurity advisor for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So basically, what that means is that I support Massachusetts, me and another CSA, to provide resources for critical infrastructure that's private sector, public sector, whoever needs support in terms of cyber hygiene. So we provide education, workshops, training, and then if there is a breach or anything that happens in an organization or company, we offer our support.
It says also you're an attorney as well.
Yeah, so I graduated from law school in 2016. My first job was working for legal services in Rhode Island. I was doing family law, domestic violence situations, specifically mostly restraining orders, but a little bit of divorce issues. And then I went on to work for the city of Providence for 4.5 years. I was an assistant city solicitor and then associate city solicitor. So at the city, that's when I got into cyber. So part-time, not part-time, how do I say this? I was like a full-time attorney for the city of Providence. And then I became the chief information security strategist. So I was balancing between the law and the cyber. And on the legal side, I did everything from contracts to litigation to prosecution to just like legal advising, drafting, all of the things. And I still do contracts right now. That's like my major thing right now. But then I split that time between law and cyber. So I do a lot of cyber stuff as
Nice,
well.
nice. That's awesome. That's amazing. And it's a long route from where we started off in Pawtucket and where the future is. So tell me a little bit about where you started off in the beginning. I know your
Yeah.
family, you're first generation American, so
I am still in Pawtucket, actually. Still with my parents, actually. So I still live in my parents' house. They live upstairs. I live downstairs. My brother lives to the left of me, which is really cool. I like being really close to family. My cousin lives across the street. It's awesome. But yeah, being first generation obviously has its challenges because you have to learn everything on your own, right? Like you're helping your parents figure it out, and then you're also trying to figure it out. You can't really ask questions to anybody because they don't know. So you're sort of navigating the fields. And that's where programs like Upward Bound, as you mentioned, came in to really help with, going to college. What are the forms that you need to pay attention to? What are the things you need to be thinking about? How do you structure your time? That helped me to get to Boston College, actually. Upward Bound was a major proponent in getting me to Boston College and then later on to law school.
so for Upward Bound, for people who don't know, is a trio program where, at least in the Rhode Island college aspect of it, you went to school during the year, took Saturday classes. So every Saturday morning, you wasted half your day. Well, not wasted, but you spent half your day doing English and math. And then in the summer, you spent 6 weeks on campus at Rhode Island College. You took classes that you were taking up in the fall, pretty much, and then a few
Yeah,
class, then like a language class that was different than normal
yeah.
language classes. It built you and helped you work your way to getting better in college, getting you accustomed. They have them all over the place. I used to work for the one at
Yeah.
Boston University as well. So what were some of the things that program helped you in developing and preparing for college?
Oh my goodness, everything. Writing, just like thinking about time management. Even so, they used to have trips where you could go to visit colleges, and we had a trip where we visited Boston College, and it was like VIP treatment. They were like, "Oh my God, come with us to the admissions office, meet all the people." They knew my name. They were like, "What do you need?" Even till this day, when I go back to visit Boston College, those same people that I met in Upward Bound were like this, like
Mhm.
It's crazy, and I felt so at home. It felt like a family away from home, and that's why I chose to go to Boston College, actually. I did both my undergrad and my master's over there. And then even after that, so Upward Bound, oh my God. So Miriam, she was the director of the program for the longest time. She was instrumental in really supporting my going to law school. When you're first generation, you don't know if you can do it, right?
Mhm.
You're just like, oh, I don't know. That seems like a far reach. Like, can I really go to law school? She supported me, provided me mentors, resources. She even I was getting discouraged when it came to taking the bar exam. It was a really hard exam, and she offered to pay for me to take the bar exam.
Oh, wow.
That's how committed she, and that's years later.
Yeah.
I 7 years off between undergrad and law school, and then 3 years in law school. So that just tells you, right? Like it's years later, and she's still like, "What can I do to support you in your journey to get to law school?" You know what I mean? So I don't think that I would be where I am if it wasn't for the Upward Bound program.
Yeah, and it's amazing how much of a different. We talked a little bit beforehand in the pre-interview, but how close our upward bound family is, and how much of our upward bound family has gotten successes. You know what I mean? We've transcended
Absolutely.
and have accomplished so much, and it's so much to be proud of. And we love talking to each other, and it does feel like family. Like you see you see someone like like, oh, look at Monty. It's like your sister growing up, and now she's big and she's making big things, and I'm
Right.
like, ah, damn, man, you're just so happy for each other, and it's amazing. It's when you don't have that resources, it's really difficult. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We don't
Yeah.
have those opportunities and stuff. And
Right.
for college, you went to Boston College, which is funny because I went to Boston University. I think I was the only
That was
one that went to Boston University, and there was like six upper bound kids that went to BC that same year that I started, and I felt like,
Guadalupe too. She
yeah,
was with me in DC.
yeah, Guadalupe. We had
Yeah.
so many,
Nilva.
Angel, Nilva. There was so
Yeah.
many of us that went up there. And I was like the only outlier that went. No, I'm going to go to Boston University because we all, it was great. But to be surrounded by a bunch of people that had that opportunity,
Right.
when you grow up in a poor, lower socioeconomic cities and stuff like that,
Yeah.
you know, not everybody in your school is going to even make it out, let alone
Right.
go to
Right.
college. And so
Right.
so what were some of the things that helped keep you motivated? And what kind of support were you given? Not even just an upper bound in your family
Yeah.
that helped you when you got to Boston College.
Honestly, it's always been someone or a group of people that saw in me sometimes what I didn't see in myself. I felt like I had that in high school. I had that in college. I had that through Upward Bound. It was just like, what is it that you need to get to the next level? And I was grateful to always find those people, or those people found me. And so I feel like even when I was in high school, I had a teacher, Mrs. Oliver. I don't know if you remember
Yeah, I
Mrs.
know it's
Oliver.
all over. Yeah,
Yeah, she was a guiding force in my life, all throughout. But then even in Upward Bound, obviously there was Claudia, there was Monica, and then your peers, like you see your peers being successful, like we still stay in touch, and even if we don't, right, like we could stop talking for a long period of time and then
yeah.
jump right back in, right?
Mhm.
Like I feel like it's that feeling of no matter what, people have your back. And it's been like that for me everywhere I've gone. I feel like no matter where I go, there's always someone who's just like, "What do you need? How can I support you? Like, what? Like, how can I?" Even now, well, I'll get to that later, but like, yeah, even now. So I'll just say, so I've been starting my own company, and even the support that I have now, where people are just like, "Why don't you just go out on your own? Like, you could do this. You don't have to work full time, right?" Just the level of support where people see you, I think, is really important, and that's been crucial for me in my life.
You touch upon a really interesting thing where I'm starting to hear it a lot, where we were like the support was someone seeing in me what I didn't see in me. And
Yeah.
I wonder, and I'm talking out of my ass at this point, but I wonder if it has something to do with the way we grow up, where we're like we don't see these high
Mm,
levels of people around us. You know what I mean? And I
yes.
mean, obviously, this is something I'd love to. I'm trying to present in with the podcast, but you grow up and everybody else is slinging drugs or going to
Yes.
jail or something, and very few
Yes.
of us are making it out there. Why should I believe in myself jumping up
Right.
there when nobody else is doing it?
Absolutely. And the thing is too, you'll have people, whether it's intentionally or unintentionally, whether it's subtle or more in your face, that are basically telling you that you can't do it. Because
Yeah,
they're just as much as there are people who, help you and say, like, we know that you need support and we're here to support you. There's also the people that look at you and they're just like, nah, like you shouldn't go to a Boston college, right? Like you're not gonna make it out of state, right? But I feel like for every person who's negative, there's always those positive influences as well. Not to say that we don't struggle though, because I'm going to be real. I struggled in law school because I didn't feel like, Shay did its best, right? But I didn't feel like it prepared me, academically for the type of rigor that a law school is going to bring me. You know what I mean? And then you have people who are like second, third, fourth generation lawyers, right? Like their parents were lawyers, their grandparents were lawyers, they have aunts and uncles. I don't have any lawyers in my family. There's nobody I can run to and say, how do you deal with this? Like it's like a new world. And if you are first generation, you know what I mean? You have to navigate that. And you can feel so small. You can feel like, am I supposed to be here? Is this really meant for me? Should I, turn around and go back the other way? But that's when the Miriams and, the support systems come into play.
Yeah, it's hard for all. I felt the same way when I started at BU. I'm like, it was funny because I was taking like two science classes a year because I wanted to be a doctor. That was my thing. I was gonna go doctor. I got into chemistry pre med. I did my first chemistry test and I got like a 90. I'm like, yo, I'm fucking doing it, son. This is great. This is gonna be
Yo,
good. And then everything else went to shit after that. And I was just like, what happened? And I realized, you meet kids and they're like, oh, my school had like 15 AP programs. I was like, we barely
seriously.
had two or three, you know what I
Right.
mean? And we,
Right.
we couldn't get the accredited. I couldn't get AP chemistry class, and people were coming in was like, yeah, I'm already a sophomore because of all my AP credits. And I'm like, oh
Gosh.
damn, and it hurts and it sucks sometimes because you feel like, oh,
Yeah.
I wasn't
Oh yeah.
prepared for this. And so what helped you? I mean, you talk about the support, and we'll talk about law school a little bit. The process for go applying and getting into law school, well, obviously difficult. You know what I mean? Not everybody
Yeah.
gets to go into law school. How was that process?
I did it in bite-sized mini steps
Mhm.
because I felt like it was overwhelming. So what I did was like, so you have to take the LSAT before you get into law school, right? So I said, okay, today I'm just going to order the book. Today I'm just going to register. Today I'm just going to take this test, or today I'm just going to fill out like one application. I literally had to walk myself through it step by step in order to not get overwhelmed with the process. Even when you do get accepted and you have to choose between schools, it's just like, okay, like for today, this is the only thing I'm going to focus on because um, I found that the imposter syndrome kicks in, right?
Mhm.
If you start to think about all the things that you need to do, you start to feel like, oh, I can't do all of this. But if you look at one thing, it's like, oh, I could do this one thing, right? So that was my process, and I think it helped a lot.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, imposterism hits all of us. It's. I think every time you start a new job or a new journey, is did I do the right choice?
Right? Oh my god!
Am I going to succeed in this? And you're scared, and especially when you're like the first of your family to get to a certain level,
Right?
you're like,
Right?
well, what are they going to think of me if I can't?
Seriously,
When you were in law school, what were some of the challenges that you actually had to deal with? You said there was a learning curve in law
right?
school. What were some of those learning curves?
The amount of reading that we had to do, time management, just I didn't have good study habits, if I'm being honest, and law school is intense reading. So if you can't just digest a lot of really dense, tough information at a quick pace because you have so much reading, it's really challenging. It's like you don't sleep. You know what I mean? Like you don't have a life. They tell you you don't have a life. And honestly, I remember before I went to law school, I would interview attorneys and say, "What is law school like?" Everybody said the same thing. They freak you out. They're like, are you sure you want to go to law school? They're like, I had somebody say, you're going to need a therapist. You're going to
Mhm.
need a therapist when you go to law school, especially if you're the kind of person, and most of us are, right? Most of us that come from our background, we go to law school trying to help our communities. We want to go not just to make money, but to really make a difference in the communities that we grew up in. When you get there, the people who have like the biggest hearts are the ones who suffer the most because it's not about saving the world. It's about reading a lot of information, learning the law for what it is, memorizing it, being really good at tests because you don't get graded on multiple assignments. You take one test at the end of a semester, and that determines whether you pass or fail that class, and it's on a bell curve. So you're compared to all of the other students if they did better or worse than you. So imagine you start with a disadvantage because of your lack of training, and then you're compared to all your peers, some of which had, way more advantages than you. So I had to learn how to cope. And I found resources. I That's what I'm really good at: finding resources, finding mentors, finding people, doing whatever I have to do to catch up.
Resources. It's an interesting point because I think for a lot of us, we don't even know where to look for resources sometimes.
Right.
Mentorship. A lot of us don't even know what a mentor is or who can mentor us.
Right.
I like. not to put blame on anything, but I've never had a mentor, you know? And so I'm wondering where would I be if I had a mentor come in my life earlier in my career?
Absolutely.
And so what kind of things did you do to help find those resources?
I am not afraid to ask for help. And I know that a lot of people in our situation, culturally, we're taught not to ask for help. We're taught to like sort of figure it out on our own. I am not that person. I will ask for help. I would go to my professors and be like, hey, I'm not understanding this. I need extra help, right? My professors took a liking towards me and they were like, okay, like let's do some extra office hours. I went to the academic success program. I think that was the name of it. And, I did some extra training and support with them. Any sort of supports that the school offered, I took advantage of all of it. I'm like, if I'm going to be paying for this, you know what I mean? Well, yeah, I'm trying to get out of law school, right? Like, I don't care about, like being proud or whatever. It's just like, I want to make sure that I graduate, you know what I mean? So it was really important to me to ask for help. I went to every office. They have a diversity office. I went to anybody who just like offered services, and I'm like, I need support. And then your peers, like we would do study groups, you know what I mean? Because I'm not the only one struggling. We're all, a lot of people that look like us, we're struggling, right? So we would do study groups, we would support each other, we would stay all night at the library, we'd go to each other's houses and just have sessions where we'd take notes. You share notes. So that's the other thing. And you can cut me off if I'm talking too much,
No,
but
it's all good.
um, I went to Roger Williams and I really appreciated that. It's not a tier one school like a Harvard, but the thing that I loved about my school is that you're not just a number. Like people know your name, professors are invested in you. And I had professors that taught at Harvard that went to Harvard, right? And they loved the community that our school had. And that was the thing that I think helped me to be successful. People shared notes. It wasn't competitive where you're tearing pages out of the book to make sure the others don't succeed. It's just like, listen, I'll take notes for this class, you'll take notes for that class, we'll swap. That's how we're going to support and help each other. So,
Yeah, it's our generation was a little interesting because college was pushed upon us so much in the prestige of different colleges. Like nobody was telling us anything about student loans, but they were just like, go to any school, the best school you can go to. That's all that's
yeah.
important. That name is going to be thing.
Real.
That's going to take you further than anything else, and da 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 da. And you bought into the hype. You know what I mean?
Right.
You went
Yep.
into these different schools. Like I had gotten a full ride to Connecticut College. It was a full ride with summer paid internships and stuff for chemistry. They were going to house me and train me and practice and get me ready and even help me for grad school stuff like that.
Right.
And I turned that down because
For the
Boston
name.
University was a bigger name.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Boston University
Yeah.
was a bigger school, and I felt like, I always question myself, like, did I do the right choice? 'Cause that school was a
Right.
lot smaller, and when I excelled at BU was in these small classes. I was failing
Right.
entry level freshman basic classes, but getting A's on these grad level classes. And well, some of the big differences were, oh, as an undergrad, you're only doing 20 pages instead of 25-page essays. You know what I mean? And it's like, I hated
Right.
writing. I couldn't write whenever I did with Miss Savella, and we had to do our final writing
Yeah.
with Miss Savella. I had to go in. I had to ask her, "Can I go to the computer and type? Because I write so slow that I'm never going to
Yeah.
be able to finish."
Yeah.
My grammar wasn't very good, and like even to this day I can't define which one's the noun, which one's the pronoun, which one's the adjective. Like I kind of get it, but I
Yeah.
can write college essays. But
Right.
and it sucked when I got later in life when I was trying to take the GMATs, where it's like
Oh my gosh.
the big part of the GMAT was sentence structure and understanding why is this sentence wrong. And I'm like, I don't know, they all sound good to me. I kind of yada yada through that in school. But yeah, you're questioning, well, you should have gone to the small school. Sometimes the
Absolutely.
small school, and it's okay, I think now, and hopefully it's more acceptable to be like, yeah, let's go to small school. Let me spend less money too. Like
Seriously,
let
the
me do
loan.
community college and stuff like that. And so you're obviously you're going through your resources and going through law school.
Right.
You eventually make it out, and then you're doing the bar. The bar in and of itself is a major hurdle for lawyers.
Right.
Okay, tell me a little bit about your journey with that.
It was the worst thing I've ever done in my life. It was like the most traumatic thing I've ever, not the most traumatic, but like it's in the top like five because that was where imposter syndrome, like I took it three times and I kept missing by like 3 points, 5 points. And Rhode Island requires a higher score than some other states, right? A lot of other states. And I was so frustrated. I was like, maybe I'm not meant to be a lawyer. Maybe I shouldn't do this, right? I didn't want to take it again. I was so frustrated. My bar professor was like, I don't understand why you're not failing. Like we would practice together. We would do practice exams. He was like, the stuff. That doesn't help me, right? Like it makes you feel so dumb when you don't pass. Like you feel like what was the purpose of all of this? And people are ashamed when they don't pass, right? Like you don't want to tell anybody, and they post it. Like I feel like they purposefully make it traumatic. Like they post if you pass or not. It's very in the courthouse of all places, so everybody knows whether you passed or you didn't, right? So I
They don't even hide your name like the with a
they
number or
know.
something or
No. They well, so what they do is they post a list of the people who passed. So people know that if your name's not on the list, you didn't pass,
mm,
right? So that's how they do it. And there was twice that I didn't pass, and I was losing by I was failing by such small points. I wanted to give up. And but again, it's the people that were just like, just take it one more time. My bar professor, just take it one more time. You know, even the last time I took it, I registered and I wanted to withdraw. I went to go withdraw because I was like, I don't want to do this again. The only reason I didn't withdraw is because they charge you $300 to withdraw.
yeah.
Like, I'm not paying $300, right? So that was the time that I took it and I finally passed. But the trauma and the stress of it, and mind you, the bar exam, in my opinion, is not even necessary to be a good, smart, able attorney. It has nothing to do with that. And it's unfortunate that people like us have to go through these hurdles just to prove that we can do something that we could have probably did without having to take the bar exam, you know?
Yep.
That's a whole nother like diatribe.
Yeah, so you bring out an interesting point when it comes to the bar exam, and I think it's the same thing when you start school and you go into like a medical field and you do engineering or anything. There's always these weed out classes or weed out
Yeah.
aspects to something that are more concerned with failing people than teaching people, and I think that's one of the things that's hard for us to get through, especially when you go to, I remember at Shea, they started combining the English classes because we were losing our accreditation. And so there wasn't no college English anymore. There was just
Yeah.
English. And they couldn't go at the level I needed to succeed in college because
Yeah.
then everyone else would fail. So
Yep.
it went really low, so there's no weed out classes in high school. There's no weed out
Right.
classes to get you in this and when in school and most kids don't in college, they don't even prepare you to
Nope.
deal with these things that will are potentially just done to kick you out.
Yep.
Get
Yep.
they try to say only the strongest doesn't necessarily mean only the best. And I think we lose out on a lot of it. And do you think that I'm sure those things discouraged you, but what helped you kind of um what was the main thing that helped keep you motivated in those situations?
That's a good question. It's gonna sound weird, but my frustration, because I felt like it's not fair, right? Like it's like you know that you can do this, but there's this stupid barrier that's keeping you from getting to where you're supposed to be, right? And I feel like it would just make me upset. It would just like it would be so frustrating. I'm like, no, I have to prove everybody wrong, right?
Mhm.
Like I feel like it feels good to say that we actually lost the accreditation was it my senior year or my
Yeah,
junior year? And that's it's like a horrible time to lose the accreditation because it's like you're going to college, right? And it's just like, oh, you're coming from a high school that's not even an accredited high school anymore. And I feel like everybody's already looking at you. Never mind the fact that you're like a minority, and I hate to say it, but like even as a female, even somebody who dresses like this as a Muslim, sometimes you walk into a situation and people are already like thinking or telling you what you can't do. And part of my motivation is proving people wrong. Like the fact that I am where I am as an attorney and a cybersecurity advisor for Massachusetts, looking like this, not having to, take off my hijab or not having to like pretend to be somebody that I'm not. I hope that other people can look at me and say, you know what, like I'm gonna be true to who I am and keep pushing. Like if they tell me I can't do it, I'm gonna push through because they don't have the right to tell me that I can't do it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, and again, I wouldn't be able to do that by myself because there are days where you're just like, I can't do this. Like I can't, I don't want to fight everybody anymore. You know what I mean? So that's where the support and the encouragement, like my family is super supportive. Like my mom and my dad, they're just, like when I graduated from law school, my dad he's telling everybody, my daughter's a lawyer, my daughter's a lawyer,
Yeah, yeah.
And I feel like, it is a big deal. It is a big deal to be the first lawyer in my family. That's a huge deal, right? I feel like at the end of the day, looking back, at our ancestors, right? Like looking back at all of the things that stood in our way and continue to stand in our way. You know what I mean? The fact that I was blessed enough to get to this place, it doesn't it doesn't get lost on me. Like I'm
Mhm.
very much aware of where I am and what I represent. And I hope to always maintain that in a positive light, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
and it's a challenge sometimes because you're leading the path, you're paving the new road, and you feel this weight of responsibility that you have to
Oh,
do better, that you're
yeah.
still not there, and I feel it all the time. I feel like I'm making loads more money than my parents ever made.
Right.
I have luxuries that I didn't have for my daughter that I didn't have growing up. That
Right.
we live in a suburban area. She can ride her bike without worrying someone's going to
Right.
rob her. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like all this craziness,
Right.
and sometimes I got to sit back and say it's okay that
Yeah.
I'm not where I'm at yet because
Right.
I've gotten so much and I have to
Right.
recognize, yeah, I still want to succeed and I think I can challenge myself to do more. But it was interesting because it was earlier today I watched this video and they were talking about how certain groups were come in and the dad would own a dry cleaning business, and then the son would own it and own the dry cleaning and had like a restaurant next to this dry cleaning business. And
Oh,
then the grandfather would come in and do, and the grandson would come in and take that and add it. But through the generations, their success
right.
grew because they just keep building on what they've already built. You know what I mean?
Mm,
And sometimes we feel
yeah.
like we need to get to that final
All
point.
of it. Yeah.
We got to get to the
So
end point,
true.
and we got to be the major corporation in our family. When
Right.
realistically, we're the first building block. We're the
Right.
first steps,
You're
and then
right.
hopefully the next generation will get there. And so those
Yeah.
challenges do, one things you mentioned, we got to take care of ourselves, self care, and
Right.
do
Yes.
all that stuff and get there. But what are some of the things that that you think are good for self care?
So I try to go for a walk at least twice a week. I used to be able to go 5 times a week, like first thing in the morning before I start my day. Me and a friend of mine, we go for at least like an hour long walk or an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours. That's really helpful to just be out in fresh air. And we try to walk by the water whenever we can just to get away from like the hustle of like all of the stressful day-to-day stuff. But I feel like for me, like I got to go to the gym last week. Some days I'm really, or some months I'm really good about going to the gym consistently. Or even just cooking. Like we underestimate just the ability to cook at home because I feel like when I'm stressed and I'm busy, like I'm constantly eating out, constantly ordering, constantly just, but it's not healthy, right? Like I feel like being able to have a good self-care routine for me is being able to be physically active. It's eating the right things. It's finding time for myself, like finding time to read a book or finding time to hang out with my friends or finding time to do something that I love to do. So I love painting, for example, and every once in a while I'll try to, schedule a class where I get to paint or I was actually talking to my friend last week, and she's my accountability partner. She's
Yeah.
reminding me that I said I have a Raspberry Pi. It's like a little
Hey,
machine that you.
just to not me to cut you off, but can you just explain what accountability partner is?
Yeah,
Mm,
absolutely. So basically, I have two accountability groups that I sort of report to, and it's basically one is for self care specifically. So I have reached out to her and I said, "Listen, I'm not really good at self care. I don't have good work life balance. Can you hold me accountable to doing healthy and positive things for myself?" So we actually check in on a weekly basis. Every Sunday we check in, and she's like, "What did you do this week? What are your goals for the next coming week? Did you do the things you said you were going to do?" And then if I say that I'm going to go to the gym on Wednesday, she'll text me or she'll call me or she'll message me and she'll be like, "Hey, did you go? Like, are you going? Let's go. Like, get out the door and do what you said you were going to do." So I feel like that's been really important. I have a financial, me and my sisters, we have a financial accountability group where it's just like, if we're trying to be good with money and be, financially savvy, we hold each other accountable to not eating out all the time
yeah.
and really paying attention to what we do, or how we spend money and things like that. So I have a couple of accountability partners in that way.
And I think that's awesome. I mean, I've heard about that in some of the books I've read. Get an accountability partner
Yeah,
for different things that can keep you, like you said, keep you accountable for what you're
yeah,
doing. You know what I mean? And the fact that you're doing you managed to grab two. One for
yeah.
your self care and your health, and the other one for finances, which I think a lot of us financing it's difficult. For all of us.
Very difficult.
Well,
We don't know.
like I started noticing the last year or so, we're always out with with soccer, with this and that. That we're just
Right.
like, oh, let's pick up something because we don't have time to cook. And I love to
Yeah.
cook, but we don't have time for it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then
Right.
you're forcing yourself to find time. And I think one of the biggest challenges people say is we don't have enough time. And the truth
Right.
is you haven't planned it.
Yeah. You haven't prioritized it. Yes, absolutely. You have to make it something just like you make it a point to get to work on time. You make it a point to like do the things you have to do, for your kids. You make it a point to do the things that you have to get done for other people. You have to make it a priority to do the things you have to do for yourself, you
Yeah.
know? So I'm learning. I'm not the best at it,
Yeah,
but
it's always
learning.
gonna be a journey, and, like,
Yeah.
like I said, I'm trying to do the same thing, like, I've discouraged myself from doing something content like this stuff that I wanted to. I wanted to do video
Yeah.
editing, do different things for, such a long time, and I was like, "I don't have time for it, I don't have time for it, I don't have time for it," and now I really don't have time for it, but I'm doing it. Like, I look at myself and I'm like, "Dude, I'm doing, like," my daughter's in 2 soccer teams, we're doing almost 6 days of soccer, she's in school, I'm working like crazy, and I'm finding the time. You know what I mean? And I
Right.
think that's the thing we got to tell. There is time. You just got to plan it, or
Right.
prioritize it, put it in your
Ooh,
calendar and make it work. And so
absolutely.
you've done this. Awesome. You're a lawyer. This is great. Most people stop. Most people like, I'm a lawyer. What more do you want from me? Right. And you decide, I'm going to go back and study some
Right.
more and you get into cybersecurity. What got you into the idea of going back to cybersecurity?
Um, it's so I've been going back to school my whole life. Before I even went for law or cyber, I went, I got my certificates in entrepreneurship and marketing, and I really wanted to figure out how I was going to support the community. It's always how do I support the community? That was the way that I thought. I was working at nonprofits at the time, and I was like, this is the way that I'm going to support nonprofits, be more sustainable. Fast forward to law school, I was like, you know what, I'm going to go in with a community and economic development focus, right? It's another way to support small businesses, people that are people like us that are trying to do what we do and we don't have the support or the information, right? How do I be that person that says, hey, don't worry, I got you, I can support you, I can help you, these are the things you need to know, how can I help you get to where you need to get? So then when it came to the cybersecurity, I actually had a law school colleague who went to school for cybersecurity, and she was like, you would love this. I was always into technology on the low. Um, I was always researching like different policies and things like that. She was like, you would love this. Go to the program. The head of the program is an attorney. He's great. She connected me with him. I spoke with him. He was great. I was like, let me do one semester, right? I did one semester and I received one of the highest grades in the class. Who would have thought, right?
Nice.
Like
Yeah.
I'm not a numbers person. I'm not a tech person. I was just like, you know what? This is really interesting. I'm going to stick with it. So, and I was, when I was at work, I had some, not downtime, but I had time to learn something new, right? So, and I get bored. I feel like I get bored without being challenged.
Mhm.
Um, and so I was like, let me just do it. Why not? Right. And lo and behold, right, you never know what life is going to do for you. So when I was getting my master's, I was going part time at night and I was working full time. And I went to my boss, Jeff Dana. He's still the city solicitor at City of Providence. He was so supportive. I said, can I start a cybersecurity program for the city of Providence? He was like, go for it. Right. He supported me. I went and just like talked to everybody in the state about cybersecurity. And I literally built like a internal cybersecurity program where I was pulling folks in and we created an advisory council and it just manifested really well. And from there, it just kept building and building and growing and growing. And my networks grew. And I was like speaking on panels and doing more cyber work. And then I left City of Providence. I went to PwC for a little bit. I was doing data protection, a little bit of data privacy. Left PwC, came to DHS. I've only been here for two months now
Nice.
um, as a cybersecurity advisor.
Cybersecurity is a big field right now. It's with the amount of stuff going on and the craziness
Yeah,
with the internet, and for people
right,
who are when they go to work, they get annoyed by all the meetings and all the trainings of don't give out your password, and oh, they sent you a fake password and you're like, is this a test from the
right,
work for my job, or is this, it gets annoying for the average user because they don't
right.
realize how simple it is
Right.
now. You know what I mean? Like, people think
Yeah,
hacking is so much of the guys from Hacker coming in and getting in
right.
there. It's like, hey Jane, I
Oh,
can't get into my account. Can you send me the pin that I just sent you? Okay, do 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 do, and then
yep,
you're,
yep,
boom, you just lost $1 million for your company from
right.
a quick phone call.
Right. Yeah, there's so many different ways, and I feel like, again, who's gonna miss out? Because I think for me, it was that it's still with the focus on community and small businesses and stuff like that. We're headed towards AI, we're headed towards technology, we're headed towards all things internet connected, and in my mind, I'm like, "How do I jump on the bandwagon early and offer support for those people who don't have it?" Right?
Yeah.
So, I focus more on cybersecurity governance and, slowly but surely, I'm delving into AI governance, right? So it's still with the same lens of risk management, like I was doing as a lawyer, you're looking at risk management, and now cybersecurity is looking at risk management from a different perspective. But it's always with the same thing in mind. How can I offer support as we move into this world of like technology focused? Like everything is going to be technology focused. How can I be on the ground and really say, okay, this is what you need to be paying attention to. This is what you need to be listening for. This is how you offer support to your community and your small businesses, et cetera.
You talk about small businesses, especially if we look at minority-owned small businesses. Most of them are, a big portion of the business is probably owned by older people,
Yeah.
older minorities who aren't technology savvy. That
Right.
they're not so used to stuff. I have my mom who, you know, she's on an iPad, a computer all day long, and she's always sending me, "Is this real? Is this real?" And I'm like, "No, don't click on that. Please don't click on that."
Right.
For the businesses, yeah, maybe some of the younger guys
Yeah.
might get it, but there's a lot of businesses and a lot of businesses with
Right.
people of minorities and people of color that are just older,
Right.
older folks that have come in here and they've been
Totally.
grinding and, God forbid they lose everything off of some simple
Right.
thing. And that's what the consequences are right now.
Right.
And so you're doing this. Are you still doing law?
More as a side thing, but not as much. But
Okay.
I will always be a lawyer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're always a lawyer, but if you're still doing law, you're still doing this. I think you also got a business you're running.
I do. I
Yeah.
do. I'm doing more with the business too. It's MOCA, MOCCA, which stands for Monsurat Ottun Coaching and Consulting Agency. I do a lot of strategic planning, hoping to get into risk management, but also change management. I started out doing individuals. Like people would come to me all the time and just say, like, I'm going through career change or I'm going through this transition or whatever. Can you offer support? And because I feel like my mind, I think my gift is strategic thinking, strategic coaching. It was just like, why not just do this more and more? So I had people coming to me saying, hey, like, can you do a workshop for us? Can you do this? Can you do that? So right now I'm actually working on a whole project where I'm doing a strategic plan, like a 3-year strategic plan for an organization. So again, it's just like being in the community. How can I support you? I do workshops. I do one-on-one coaching. I do full-on organizational or business oriented, connection, so strategic planning, conversations about growth and development. But yeah, so eventually I think that I want to be able to work for myself
Yeah.
and I'll be able to do what I want to do and continue to build the legacy for me and my family. So yeah, it's going really well right now.
Nice. That's awesome. And an awesome name. Awesome name for a company. And trust me, as someone trying to come up with a name, sometimes either you're working
All
really hard to come up with something, or it's just something that hits you on the side of the head while you're walking your dog, and you're like, "Oh shit, that would be dope." And but that's an
It
awesome
took a
name for a
couple of
company.
years. It took some,
Yeah, it can be really hard. Like everything. I mean, when I'm doing
yeah.
this podcast, it took me like 6 months to decide on what my logo was gonna be. You know what I
Oh my
mean?
gosh, that's another thing. Yeah. Yeah. It looks great.
Oh, thank you. And then there's challenges in running a business.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Challenges and, the support. You might not have support. So what are some of the challenges you had to deal with while starting to start your business?
Not having support. Like, yeah, because when it's like your baby, right? Like you're the one who's most invested. So people will say that they can help you and then they don't have the time or they don't show up. And if this person doesn't get you the documents on time, you are responsible for making it all happen, right?
Mhm,
So I recently hired an assistant and she is amazing because I can't do it all by myself, right? All of the little things, there's so many little things that go into running a business that you
mhm.
don't think about. And I feel like I can't be the only one who has it all in my head. I have to have somebody else who's thinking about the things that I'm also thinking about. So while I'm focused on here, and mind you, I just started a new job, right? So I just can't do it all. I think
Yeah,
that's the other thing about being us. We have to be honest with ourselves about we can't do it all.
yeah,
I can't do it all, right? So there are times when I just need to take a day for myself. There are times when I have to say no to certain projects. There are times when I need to say, can you help me do this? Even if the person may or may not be reliable, you just have to trial and error. You figure out who's going to come through, who's not, and then you pick up the pieces and keep going. But I feel like running a small business, I give props to all of the small business owners. You are like a one man show a lot of the time, and you're figuring it out as you go, and you're trying to stay on top of the market and technology and on top of your finances and making sure you pay your taxes and don't get audited, and all of these things. But to keep going, right? Like we're still doing it, even though it's difficult, even though it's challenging, even though we don't have all the answers, the fact that we're still pulling through, it's
yeah,
amazing. I love us. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
we're just like a different breed. I feel like first generation folks that come here and just like do like we know how to grind, we know
yeah.
how to hustle. We know how to like, just I don't know.
Yeah, it's always, it's a grind mentality, that we come up here, and I think it's a mixture of seeing how hard your parents work, plus
Yes,
how much they sacrifice, that
the
puts an extra
sacrifices.
level of, I need to do it. I'm not doing it just for me. I'm doing it for
Yes,
them.
yes,
I have my daughter now, and it's like now I'm not just doing it for me. I'm doing it for my wife and my
right,
daughter. So I'm doing it for me, my daughter, my wife, my parents. You know what I mean? I want to make.
right.
I'm trying to do
Yes,
everything, and so you'll do what you have to do. I tell
right,
my wife all the time, that, you buy a house. First time we bought a house, we budgeted enough to buy a house, and we have extra. Like, okay, I'm putting extra money into paying our bills every month so that we don't ever get caught off
right,
balance. Doing that. But
right.
I told, like, worst case scenario, we will be in this house with no electricity, no water, no gas, because I ain't losing the house. They could cut off our
Yep,
electricity, but I ain't losing this house. There was times where I'm working two jobs to make things work,
yes,
and you're doing all this
yep,
stuff because that's that grind mentality.
yeah.
But
You do what you have to
you
do.
got to do what you have to do, and
Yeah,
then you get to a point where you're also like, all right, at what point is my grind cutting into my life? At what
yeah.
point do I need to cut back and say, I need to work that work life balance gets difficult. Is
Right.
that something you find challenging with the way you work?
That's something that I find absolutely challenging. I'm still trying to figure it out and I'm not good at it. I'll tell you that. I just did a workshop or a retreat for an organization on Thursday. And that was one of the things that, my friends were saying, like, you don't have work-life balance. I'm like, I admit that I don't. They were talking about holding me accountable to
Mm,
taking a vacation, right? And making sure that I stick to that because that's the first thing to go. My brain is like, oh, I have to get this done, I have to get that done. And it's really difficult when you don't have this is the area where you don't have as much support, right? Like I don't have anybody that I can rely on. And it's like if it fails, I don't want to feel like I failed. You know what I mean? So if something has to get done, I'm all about getting it done.
mm.
And unfortunately, I sacrifice my own well-being at times. But I will say that I am very intentional about making sure that I carve out at least some time every week or even like once a month to do something fun. You know what I mean? I may not be able to always like eat the best or like work out as much as I would like to or do as many fun things as I would like, but I do prioritize it because I know it's important. I just need to get better about it, and that's what the accountability partners are for.
Yeah, accountability partners. I mean, I think that is very important. And then it's just funny because it's like it's something I never heard of growing up. It's not something. I mean, there's words that we don't use because people don't have them.
Right.
You know what I mean? My dad's
Yeah.
accountability partner was the electricity was going to get cut off, so he had to work. You know what I mean?
Right,
There was no
right,
accountability partner
right.
because he had to be
Do what you gotta
accountable.
do,
Yeah,
right,
you know what I mean. And
right,
that we get to a point where we're successful enough that we have a buffer that we can be a little unaccountable for our stuff, and we don't fail completely,
right.
which,
Yeah,
success drives more success. We
right,
succeed to the point that if we fail a little bit, we can bounce back
yeah,
without completely
yeah,
going down the drain. But there's
right.
still risk, and and you've taken lots of risk, and so you keep taking risk, and you're still taking risk. What were some of the things that help hype you up to, or convince yourself that I need to go take these risks?
Honestly, this is where I would say faith. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I was put here for a bigger purpose, not to just like you said, it's like you're not just doing it for yourself. You feel like there's a bigger purpose in which you're supposed to do things. And I will say that sometimes you'll find that things will fall into place on their own. So there'll be times when I'm going in this direction. So let me tell you, a couple of years ago, if you would have told me that I would be working in cybersecurity and I would have my own business, I would have been like, no, that doesn't even sound like me. Even people are like cybersecurity, like
Mhm.
I saw you doing public administration, I'm
Yeah.
like, you and me both, right? Like, I don't know how this happened, but I feel like there has to be a level of faith and trust that you just like if something comes up to you and it's like gnawing at you and you're like, this is maybe something that I should try. I feel like I try to trust that. So for me, I feel like I'm supposed to be doing something. My business is a great example because I've been running away from it for a long time. And I have a friend, she's amazing. She is just like, I'm gonna hire you to do this project. And I was like, no, I'm not ready. I was like, you should hire somebody else. She was like, no, interview. She was like, at least interview for the process. I was like, all right, let me submit an application, let me interview. And lo and behold, you know what I mean? I got offered this project and it felt right.
Hmm.
It just feels right. It feels like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is something that I'm good at. This is something that like a bigger force is calling me to do. And so things like that, I feel like I try to listen to because it's not just about me. It's about something bigger than me. So I think faith is a huge part of that.
Yeah, and it's funny, the jumping on the calling. You know what I mean? With something we doubt
Yeah.
ourselves sometimes, where it's like, I think as you grow and you start accomplishing more, you feel a little more confident that you're willing to take these risks because you
Right.
believe in yourself more.
Right.
Now you're doing this, and but for a long time you're like, oh no, I'm not where I'm at. How can I try something else? How can I start a
Right.
business if I haven't even got to the career I wanted, the job I wanted, or something
Right.
like that? And you're your own worst enemy sometimes. And so,
Yeah.
but as we grow, we learn. You always look back and you say, man, if I can go back and if I did this and I did that, and if I changed this and whatever. So if you could go back and talk to
Right.
yourself
Oh my
and
gosh.
say, what is some advice you'd give yourself?
Oh my goodness. Think less, do more. I feel like I overthink a lot of things, and I feel like if I would have acted more, even if I was gonna mess up, even if I was gonna fail, even if I was gonna like end up wherever, it's like trust yourself to get through that process. But I feel like I overthought so many things, and I was like, I turned down so many great opportunities because of fear or because I was overthinking. And I feel like if I would have just said yes a little bit more, then perhaps I could be in a place that would be even more, I mean, I do believe in I am where I'm supposed to be, right? So
Yeah,
all of the no's and all the yeses led me to exactly where I'm supposed to be. So I don't have regrets per se, but I would say that like if I could talk to my younger self, it's like stop thinking, just trust the process, trust your gut, and in the moment, do what feels right to you, and it will be okay.
yeah,
That's what I try to do a little bit more now that I'm older.
yeah. And it's people apply for jobs and they see, you know, it took me a while to realize they're putting in their perfect candidate. I'm not going to hit everything. I might hit
Exactly.
6 out of the 15 things they want, but I'm gonna apply
Right.
anyway, and I'm gonna blow them
Right.
away if I get an interview, and I'm gonna be so
Seriously.
charming, they're not gonna wanna not hire me,
Right.
and every job you're gonna have to learn anyway, so I'm great at
Right.
learning, and I'm great at doing that, and so that's one thing that people don't really think about. So,
Yeah.
yeah, man, it's okay if you're not the best. Keep pushing, man, keep churning, so,
Right. Oh my god, absolutely, and I wish I knew that. I wish I knew that too,
mhm,
like, because we see everything as, like, you have to be perfect, you have to get to that next level, but it's
mhm.
like, no, just put your hat in the ring and see where you end up.
Yeah, yeah, I think, therapists would blame our parents most of the time for stuff like that, so
Hey, I'm not
Well,
saying that.
well, Monsi, thank you so much for being here with me today. I really appreciate it.
Chris,
You've had such an incredible journey, and I'm so proud of everything you've accomplished. I'm looking
thank
forward to
you,
see what you accomplish next.
thank you.
And yeah, yeah, look, you're doing great, and keep at it. So, and try to
Thank
get
you,
that
thank
work life balance working out because it
you.
will. You will never regret a good work life. You know what I
Right, you're
mean?
right, you're totally
you
right.
you 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 you'll go 10 years from now and you can always go back and say, man, I wish I worked less, but you're never going to go back and say, I wish I worked more. So,
Right. Very true.
uh,
Thank
so
you for having me,
uh,
and, congratulations on this podcast, this
uh,
is awesome, and
thank
I
you.
hope we get to connect way more often.
Yeah, definitely, I do want to keep
Yeah,
keep involved more. It's been a while, and I know I was in Texas for 15 years, 12 years, and so that kind of put a damper on stuff. But now that I'm close by, I'm
right,
definitely trying to get back and get connected with stuff.
nice.
But thank you so much, and for everybody else listening, thank you so much for joining and supporting as always. I hope you tune in next time as we continue to learn how to say success in Spanglish.